In the Old Testament, there were three major festivals that Israelites were expected to attend: Passover, Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles. While today most Christians don't celebrate these Jewish festivals, this Old Testament example can guide us. And in this episode, I'm going to share three benefits to regularly traveling to get away in gatherings with other believers. Hello, I'm Larry Witzel with another ministry insight from SermonView. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today. I'm incredibly honored. And we've got several episodes coming up on effective ways to build relationships with people through social media. So please subscribe to get immediate access. And if you like this content, please like it and share it with a colleague. A few years ago, I went to an evangelism training event with my senior pastor and several other leaders from my church. There were 5 of us that went, and it was a truly powerful experience. I'm not sure that we actually heard anything particularly novel about church growth, but being there together in a different space away from our daily activities led to some deep conversations that profoundly impacted the trajectory of our church. Now, that's not really surprising because this kind of thing has happened for thousands of years. In fact, in the Old Testament Mosaic Law, God commanded the Israelites to observe 3 major pilgrimage festivals. The first one, Passover, commemorated Israel's deliverance from Egypt and was celebrated in the first month of the Jewish calendar in early spring. It was a time of remembrance and gratitude centered around the sacrifice of the Passover lamb. The second festival, Pentecost, occurred 50 days later, marking the giving of the law at Sinai, and later became associated with the first fruits of the harvest. This festival reinforced the people's dependence on God's provision and their commitment to His commandments. And the third was the Feast of Tabernacles, celebrated in the 7th month of mid-fall, a joyous festival recalling Israel's wilderness journey and God's sustaining presence. It was a time of thanksgiving, marked by living in temporary structures to remember God's protection. These 3 major festivals shaped Israel's national and spiritual life, ensuring regular corporate worship, spiritual fellowship, and personal renewal. All the adult men of Israel were expected to journey to Jerusalem for every one of these 3 festivals. This experience deepened their spiritual commitment and renewed their understanding of God's covenant as they celebrated together as a community. Now, as I've thought about these 3 festivals, I've wondered if there isn't wisdom to establish a similar cadence of travel and celebration. Just as the Israelites traveled to Jerusalem 3 times a year to reconnect with God and their community, I believe that pastors today should prioritize intentional travel to gather with other believers. The demands of ministry can be isolating, leading to burnout and stagnation, and making 3 intentional trips each year for worship, fellowship, inspiration, and training can bring renewal and fresh vision for ministry. Now, I'd like to share 3 specific reasons for getting away 3 times a year for spiritual renewal. First, modern research affirms the benefits of travel in fostering learning and professional growth. One study by Maddox and Galinsky noted how a change of physical environment enhances cognitive flexibility, creativity, and the ability to absorb new information. This principle is evident in the biblical pattern of pilgrimage, where a shift in location led to a renewed perspective. When you leave your familiar surroundings, your mind becomes more receptive to new ideas, a concept that researchers have called the foreign experience effect. You come home with renewed energy and direction for your calling. Second, getting away for an intentional gathering with other church leaders provides a space for passionate worship. As a pastor, you spend a lot of your time pouring into others, but you too need to be spiritually nourished. The Psalms often highlight the power of coming together to worship, and Jesus himself modeled the importance of retreating for prayer and renewal. When pastors gather together, they experience the joy of worship without the pressures of leadership. You're not the one putting the worship service together. You're not the one preaching. You can just bask in the worship experience, rekindling your passion for ministry. And finally, third, these gatherings provide an opportunity to fellowship with other leaders and encourage each other. I like how the New International Version translates Hebrews 10:24 and 25. Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, but encouraging one another. Spur one another on. Ministry can be lonely. A Barna study last year showed that many pastors often struggle with feelings of isolation. And in 2024, 1 out of every 3 pastors contemplated quitting ministry altogether. Regularly attending conferences and retreats allows pastors to connect with other like-minded leaders, share struggles, and build relationships that provide ongoing support. The friendships formed in these environments can become vital sources of accountability and encouragement. We keep these 3 benefits in mind in planning for each Propel conference. In addition to leading the SermonView crew, I'm also the director of this annual 4-day event offering inspiration and innovation for church growth. This is one of my favorite things that I do, and we've been intentional about baking these 3 benefits into the Propel Conference. First, we want pastors and local church leaders to physically get away from their daily and their weekly work in order to foster that impactful learning environment. That's why we don't offer a digital pass or live stream, because being there in person is a crucial part of the experience. Second, we're really intentional about the worship experience because when you're not in charge of the program, we want you to just bask in quality music and praise that takes you to the throne of God. And third, the schedule's relaxed, offering time for reflection and fellowship with other like-minded leaders. And this has led to some profound connections. In just the last few weeks, I've run into several past Propel Conference attendees in my travels who talked about what a transformative experience it was. That's the power of getting away like the Israelites used to do for their 3 festival. By the way, we'd love to see you at the next Propel Conference. It's coming to Puyallup, Washington, April 27 to 30, 2025. We're going to have training tracks on proclamational evangelism, relational evangelism, church revitalization, and digital evangelism. You can learn more at propelconference.org, and I hope that you can join us. The biblical pattern of pilgrimage teaches us that intentional travel fosters spiritual renewal, community, and personal growth. Just as the Israelites were commanded to journey to Jerusalem 3 times a year, pastors today should make space in their schedules for travel that enriches their faith, sharpens their ministry skills, and strengthens their relationships. Research confirms that changing one's environment enhances learning, creativity, and personal development. When you commit to gathering with other believers for worship and fellowship and inspiration, you'll return to your own congregation refreshed and ready to lead with greater clarity and passion. Ministry is a marathon, not a sprint, and regular moments of retreat and renewal are essential for long-term effectiveness. Following this biblical model, you can cultivate a sustainable and thriving ministry that blesses both your church and your own spiritual life. So what are 3 ministry getaways that you could do over the next 12 months? Camp meeting? Maybe your conference's pastor's retreat. How about the Propel Conference? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to know the one social media post that your church should make every week, then check out last week's episode where I talk about a silly post that I made on a Sabbath morning that led to a surprising discovery. Pastor, you are truly a gift. Jesus said in John 15 that you didn't choose him, he chose you. And he's appointed you to do this work, to produce lasting fruit. So don't be discouraged. As you patiently do his work, God will bless you with results. Stay connected to the vine and do the work. Then God's blessing will become evident. So stay with it. I love you guys. I'm cheering for you. I'll see you next time.